In part 2 of our Talking Edge with Mestecc Minister Yeo Bee Yin, we talk about Malaysia and the question of climate change and how she intends to lead the cause. We ask how future-proof the country really is to face it and how tackling this global issue could lead to more local job creation. Let's talk about climate change, for example. It's no kind of secret that it's been very personal. It's a very big personal crusade. We've seen the reports from United Nations and everything. How do you feel Malaysia is doing? What's being put in place now to future-proof itself when it comes to this climate change issue?
Malaysia has signed a Paris Agreement to reduce our carbon emission intensity relative to the year 2005. So we need to reduce 45% by 2030. Relative to 2005 level. So we are already 33% right now. So we can easily hit our target with just business as usual. So we are thinking that we want to be a bit more aggressive than what we are doing with our commitment in the Paris Agreement. And the Paris Agreement, 45%, 35% is the full commitment, and 10% is actually conditional upon international help and international technology transfer. So we are seeing that even with ourselves, I think we are on track of hitting 45%, but really, what do you do after that? And hitting that doesn't mean anything to Malaysia. So what we want to do in terms of climate change, this is what we call mitigation. That means you try to reduce carbon dioxide. It's really to think, how do we grow a new industry in Malaysia as the world is committing towards a more low carbon future. That is why renewable energy and energy efficiency is not really only talking about that we want to save the world kind of thing, but really how do we create a new players, new industry. For example, on REs, how do we create more renewable energy player? This is their nurturing ground, but really they will hopefully with these projects in Malaysia they will be able to grow to be a regional player. And also on energy efficiency. So actually this year and next year we really want to do energy efficiency projects in government buildings. So we build up more players on energy service companies player. So there's a whole new industry on energy efficiency. Why is it important is that energy efficiency can decarbonize our country. But really, when you talk about climate change, you are not only talking about mitigation, you're also talking about adaptation. Mitigation means you reduce the carbon dioxide emission. Adaptation means if the world is going to warm by 2 Celsius and there will be subsequent changes, are you ready to adapt to this change? Because of the change and the warm, there will be a food chain disruption as well. So in terms of food security, etc. So for this year, we are really looking into the risks. We are the mitigation part and the energy part. We are already shared with you on renewable energy efficiency. But another part is on transportation. But that one we are working with MOT. The other side of it is the adaptation. So I think we have lost sight of adaptation for a long time. Let's say, for example, if the world is going to increase by 2 Celsius, Malaysia coastline, what will happen to Malaysian coastline? The landmass in Malaysia is going to reduce.
Yes, it's going to recede.
Which island is going to be affected? And what are we going to do with that? And what is our investment today? And so that our infrastructure tomorrow will be able to go through this, we call it 2 Celsius scenario.
Do you think we have that much time, YB? I don't want to be doomsday, but the fact is, if you look at the news now, is it too long a timeline? Because you did say you wanted to be a bit more aggressive. Now.
An act doesn't mean before you have an act, you cannot have action.
Okay.
I think Malaysia has done our part in terms of decarbonization, and we do more than what we are requested to do. Or we committed to do actually, and that we can do more and we want to do more. But there must be a fairness between the developed country and the developing countries. Malaysia is a developing country, so we must be very, very practical in terms of what we do will not sacrifice the economic development of the people. And how do we sustainably grow this, our commitment, and as well as create more opportunities when we try to meet our commitment to reduce carbon emission. And international discussion, you will then know that actually Malaysia has a common but differentiated commitment. That means all the countries in the world must be committed to reduce carbon emission, but it must be differentiated between the developing country and the developed country. And the developed country must hold more responsibility, because if you look at the climate today, it is not because of what? It's because since Industrial Revolution, that if you look into the carbon emission chart, you will know carbon dioxide concentration chart. You will know that it is actually a sudden increase since the industrialization.
Yes.
And those are we call it historical emission. It's done by those of the developed countries. And therefore, they must have a responsibility to tell us that if you want me to reduce my carbon, you must help me. Because whatever that is emitted previously, and make you a makes you a developed country, prosperous country, is now in the atmosphere. And now you have the cheek to ask me to reduce my carbon emission, and yet you enjoy the prosperity. So that must be fairness in it.
Does it frustrate you sometimes, YB, that the government machinery does move very slowly?
That is why we also, out of the 80 initiatives, we are actually also looking into bureaucracy. So how, things don't change if you just whine, right? So you have got to really look into meticulously. So each process we go through, the procurement process, how do we make it less? It does not only frustrate me, it frustrates our officers as well. Do you think people like to work in a bureaucratic organization? Nobody likes to do a bureaucratic organization. Our officers get frustrated, demotivated because of bureaucracy. So that is why we need to change.
On the flip side though, what has been very fulfilling for you as a minister handling this portfolio?
Before this, we were in opposition. Right, you can only say, oh, we need to make a power sector more competitive. You can't do it. The fulfilling part is that now you are in a position to do what you say, and that is something that is very fulfilling to me. And also, we used to be able to only solve the surface of the problem. Today, because of this position and the thing that we do, we are able to do structural differences, make structural differences, for example, massive reform. That is a big fulfillment, but comes with the fulfillment is a sense of responsibility.
Correct.
That we must be responsible to the position that we are holding. This is a position that is entrusted to us, and there is a responsibility to come with it. There's Spider-Man likes to say, with great power come great responsibility.